That's a big deal. Yeah. Pop, bang, boom. It's a BFD, people. Caterpillar turns into the butterfly. We are going to unlock the secrets today. I mean, we are full on soap opera here. When you work with your progressed chart, you can actually crack open the gold of your future self, and you can understand why your past was the way it was. You can also see your present self and the evolution of your soul in a whole new way. It's profound and it's powerful. And in this video, I'm going to tell you a couple very important things that you need to know about your progressed chart. We're going to talk about the 29th degree in the progressed chart. It's absolutely imperative and critical that you listen to this video so you can go and see when you are sitting on the 29th degree. We're also going to talk about the 0 degree and what that means. I also want to tell you about retrogrades in the progressed chart. I want to talk about changing houses and changing signs. So those are 4 potent things that you absolutely have to know about progressions, and using your progressed chart can unlock a very big secret puzzle piece to the mosaic of your life. It's the important thread inside the tapestry that makes up your life and the evolution of your soul from lifetime to lifetime. We are going to unlock the secrets today. So the first thing that I want to talk to you guys about, do you have a planet sitting at the 29th degree in your gorgeous natal chart? And I hope you all have your gorgeous natal chart. So if you don't, you can go to shopsoulnavigation.com and go get yours. So do you have something sitting at the 29th degree in your natal chart? Why is this important? First of all, I hope you watched my video called The Power of the Degrees, because I go very deep into what the 29th degree means. And I do want you to have that information inside of you, but I'm not going to repeat myself here because I have an in-depth video already done on it. But what this is telling me is that you were born. This is just your natal chart. We haven't talked about the progressed chart yet, but it's going to tie to the progressed chart. And we are going to talk about the bridge between the natal chart and the progressed chart and what it means to have a planet on the 29th degree. One of the things I want to tell you is that if you have this in the natal chart, you were born at a time when change was happening. It was literally the changing of the guards. So, you know, those 2 guards at Buckingham Palace, and they come out and they do changing of the guards. Yeah, it's that moment. It is the changing of seasons. It's like, it's almost like being born right when the caterpillar turns into the butterfly. It's literally during the moment of metamorphosis. Okay. So that sounds fabulous and fancy and woohoo. It is also convoluted and blurry. And which one am I? You're born at a time when there is a losing of something and a developing or a gaining of something else. Right. And so it's sort of like when the wave crashes and splashes into the ocean and it became one. It's that nanosecond of a moment. So that 29th degree is absolutely critical in the natal chart. So now that we know that that 29th degree was in its metamorphosis and it was in its changing. And by the way, I hope you saw my last video where I did Freddie Mercury's chart and I talked about the new moon by progression, the progressed new moon in the natal chart, because I went deep into the math of progressions. And I went into the 30 degrees, actually 29 degrees, and the 59 minutes, and why those minutes really matter. So in progressions and in astrology, minutes matter. Minutes matter. Sometimes size matters and sometimes minutes matter. And in astrology, minutes matter. Okay. You have to see where you're at on the 29th degree. Are you at 29 degrees 0 minutes, 29 degrees 1 minute, 29 degrees 15 minutes, 29 degrees 30 minutes? That's the halfway point. Or are you 29:59? That's the highest degree and minute you can possibly have before it turns to 0. Did you hear that? If you didn't hear that, please rewind that. So in progressions, it really matters. In the natal chart, it also really matters. But there is a bigger impact and a bigger kaboom in a progressed chart at the 29th degree and at the 29 degree any minute. But I want you to know where you're at. So if you're looking at the sun and you are born on the 29th degree 1 minute, well, you're at the very beginning of the 29th degree, and it's going to take a whole full year to get to the 29th degree 59th minute. It's going to take a whole year. So you have a whole year of this metamorphosis, of this kaboom. Now, in your natal chart, if you were born on the 29th degree, well, the very next day it changes. The energy changes the very next day because you're born on the last day of a zodiac sign. And then the next day, boom. So you might have been born on the last day of Virgo, and the next day is boom, Libra. right? But in the progress chart, it takes a year. It takes one whole year for that sun's degree to move 1 degree. It's kind of a bigger deal in the progress chart. Now, not every single planet moves at the same rate in the progress chart or in secondary progressions. Now, when we talk about solar arcs, we move the planets all at the same degree, at the same pace. We're not talking about that though. We're talking about secondary progressions. There's so much to learn in astrology. It is a feast. It's Babette's feast. I mean, you are going to feast on astrology. If you've already learned this much, you will be able to feast on astrology for the whole rest of your life, never getting full. It is infinite, absolutely infinite. So leave me comments around the things that you would like to learn about, because my library is getting really, really big. And I hope you guys are watching all of it. If you're born with any planet at the 29th degree, you are born when that planet wants to change. Now, if you were born with Pluto at the 29th degree, it might stay at the 29th degree for your whole life long. It might stay there, probably will. It might move 1 degree. It depends where it's at within the 29th degree. If you're 2958, yeah, it's probably going to move. If you're 2901, 29 degrees 1 minute, it might stay at the 29th degree. And it might go back to 28 degrees because remember, Pluto retrogrades for half of the time. However, if you are born with Mercury, Moon, or the Sun at the 29th degree, and even Venus and Mars, those personal planets, it's probably going to change signs unless it goes retrograde. And we are going to talk about the retrograde in a minute. However, what I want you to do is this is why you need your ephemeris. This is why a software program, I'm sorry, go buy yourself a fancy software program. It's very difficult to see your life like you can with the ephemeris. And with the ephemeris, you can see when that planet moves off the 29th degree. If you were born on the 29th degree, your sun sign is at the 29th degree. We know that the next year it is going to be at the 0 degree. So that's what I really wanted to talk about. So all of you sun signs that are born on the 29th degree of any sign, your life, the very first entire year of your life, probably, it depends. You were born into life that was looking like Virgo, let's say, and then it changed at 6 months or 3 months or 1 year, these 29 degrees. We know that it dramatically changed really early in your life. So when you are born into a planet that sits at the 29th degree, it wants to change, and it probably will change. Now, some won't. Some will have Pluto, Jupiter, or Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune that will retrograde to the 28th, so it never gets off of the 29th. And so what does that mean? That means you are forever in metamorphosis, forever. So let's say you're born at a 29-degree Pluto, but it retrogrades. Right? It retrogrades by progression, and it goes to 28, 27, 26, and then it goes 27, 28, 29, and then it retrogrades again. And then it does that for your whole life. That's somebody who is fluctuating. And the closer you get to the 29th degree, that's where that metamorphosis happens. You guys already know this. You're deep into learning about progressions. I hope you're loving this whole progression series because I have lots to teach you. So let's say you were born on January 20th, okay, 1978. And if that's really you, leave me a comment. Well, that's Capricorn. That's the last day of Capricorn. And we can see right here in the ephemeris on that day that the sun was at 29 degrees, 34 minutes. Well, we know that 34 minutes is a little bit more than 6 months. So we know that in about 5.5 months, this little baby that was born on January 20th, 1978 is going to, in less than 6 months time after they were born, experience radical change because by progression, they're going to move into Aquarius, and they didn't even get to do their Capricorn energy, and they're going to spend 30 years in Aquarius. So when they're 31 years old, that's when they'll move into the following sign. And so you can see your whole entire life by progression by looking at the days. Each day after your birthday represents that year of your life. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go watch my very first video in my progressions series so you can understand the math and the formula and how to calculate this. But for those of you who are with me, it's very, very fascinating when you're born on that very last day of a zodiac sign by progression, you're going to flip to the next sign and you're going to live in that sign for the next 30 years. And why is that important? That's important because the beginning of your life, and you might need to go interview the people in your life of like, what changed? Was I born in the back of a taxi cab, where life was like volatile and crazy? And then, mama lost her job or got a job. What happened? What happened to your parents or your siblings or your own self in the first 6 months of your life. Let me just share with you an example. This is a great example. And if you guys have your ephemeris, you can go grab it and you can watch it with this video and you can look up exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't have this ephemeris, please go buy one. It's worth it. I don't know how much it is, like $34. And I have the link to the ones that I want you to buy in my notes below. And if you buy them from my Amazon store, you click on my astrology books. Those are all the books that I recommend for you to get. Anyways, they throw me 10 cents. Woo. Okay. So anyways, go get your ephemeris and follow along with me. So we're going to look at my adorable husband. He is such a wonderful man, but look at his story. You can see it just right here in the ephemeris. It's absolutely stunning. And when I met him, I was like, oh my God, tell me about the first 6 months of your life. And he's like, well, I have no clue. And I was like, well, we have to figure it out. Is there anybody still alive that would have been there for the first 6 months of your life? And he said, sadly, no. I mean, my cousins, but they're not going to remember. And he said, I could call maybe an aunt or something. And then he started to discover the truth about the first 6 months of his life. And I'll tell you about them. I'm sure he won't mind. But go look this up. Born February 1st, 1969. And you can see he was born on a Saturday at 11 degrees. Okay. He was born after 12 noon. So he gets a Leo moon. So he was born on the day the moon changes. What does that mean? That means we know his mom went into labor when the moon was at 29 degrees Cancer, most likely, because he was born with the moon like at 2 or 3 degrees. Anyways, his mom had to give him up. Yeah. His mom was very young and she was brave enough to have him, but there was no family to take him. But she knew she couldn't keep him. So she left him in the hospital. And there's the 29-degree moon. It probably killed her to do so, but she was too young to have the baby and she was not married. So that was in 1969. Wasn't an easy decision, I'm sure, but she just did not feel that she could do that. So you can see that she was in labor. So your mom's labor story is in this ephemeris too, because he was born on those very early degrees of Leo, but he wanted to be a Leo moon. He didn't want to be a 29-degree Cancer moon. Why? You can see on that day that Venus was at 2850 degrees. And to be honest with you, later in the day, it did move to 29 degrees. And he does have in the software program, the 29th degree. But in this ephemeris, it says 28 degrees, 50 minutes, but just trust me, it's a 29 degree. He was born at 9:10 p.m., so pretty late at night. So even if the ephemeris says a very late 28 degree, you might want to go double check it in a software program. Look at this. When he is 3 years old, his Venus moves away from the 29th degree to 0 degrees Aries. So he is in the hospital with no parents for the first 6 months of his life. I mean, imagine that. Day 1, day 2, day 30, right? Day 40, day 50, day 60, day 70, day 100, day 200, day 300. The hospital. He finally got a family that adopted him. And then when they adopted him, it's very interesting. He was 6 months old and he was in the 29th degree of Venus. Now, he's too young to know this, but this story imprints on him. And then what happened is he was adopted into, his mom never really made a lot of money, but she married a man who came with success, who helped give Joe a great life, but it didn't start out that way. His mom is a beautiful soul. She's a Pisces. She worked as a hospice nurse. She worked as a nurse in a prison. She did jobs that just paid, they paid in love, but they didn't necessarily pay in money. I'm showing you this example and this idea to go look at your own planets, and that's his Venus. And his Venus turned to 0 degrees Aries, and he kind of got liberated from that sad first 6 months of his life, which he doesn't recall and he doesn't remember, and he doesn't remember being in any pain, but the soul remembers, the body remembers. He had fantastic investment in love. I mean, these people adored him and loved him, and see how the story changed. Yeah. Isn't that fascinating? So I invite you to look at your 29-degree stories and see if they change using the ephemeris. After it hits the 29th degree and 29th degree 59, it goes to 0 and you get a new lease on life. And in my husband's story, Joe, he got a new lease on life. I mean, he got a mom and a dad that loved him, and he stepped into early in life, he stepped into people that really invested in him. Well, their relationship went south and they got a divorce. Mr. Stanley, he did give Joe enough in life to fill him up. And then his mom was in his fan club and his lifelong advocate and great supporter and great love of his life for her whole entire life. So she loved him ferociously, like an Aries, like his Leo moon said he would get. right? And he didn't get that from that original mom who was giving birth at the 29th degree Cancer. Is this not blowing your mind? This is just one example of how to look at it in your own chart. I want you to do this. I want you to find your own stories. So where does the 29th degree turn to the 0 degree? And if you're born on a 27 degree, well, you know, the 29th is just around the corner. If you're born on the 15th degree, go look and see how old you're going to be when it turns to the 29th degree, right? And remember, it's a day for a year. So each day after you were born is 1 year of your life. But look at this. This is the next piece of the story that I want to talk to you about. But I do want you to see those 0 degrees as big, giant blessings and like changing the whole course of your life. And those 29 degrees, like losing something to gain something. You're losing your legs to gain your wings. But look at this. We're going to continue with Joe's story. So he has that Venus, right? At that 0 degrees Aries when he's about 1 year old. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go follow that Venus. We're going to see if it hits another 29 degree again. But before we get there, and this is why I love the ephemeris, because you can see the retrogrades really easily. And you can see when retrograde starts and when retrograde ends. And you don't have to just click on the computer screen one day at a time. So I love working with the ephemeris. Anyways, it is my Bible. Let's keep going. So now we're in March. He was born February 1st. Now we're in March and we're going to scroll down. We're going to look at Venus. We're going to see if it hits the 29th degree. Up before it hits the 29th degree in Aries, we can see here that on March 18th, which is around when he was about 46, 47 years old, because it's a day for a year, Venus turned retrograde. So Venus retrograde doesn't mean anything bad, but what it means is something about love in his life is going to change, and it's going to massively change, and it's going to take place until, oh my God, April 28th. That's pretty late in his life. I'll have to do the math to see how old he'll be. When that Venus went retrograde, what happened in his life? He met me and we dated. And you know, within 3 months of us dating, we felt like we wanted to be together. We felt like we really wanted to do our relationship in a serious way. And we met in April. And by July, we were talking about buying a house together. And then in October, we did. So it happened really, really fast. Well, that's about the time that Venus went retrograde. So what does that mean? That means all the Aries and Venus that was out there dating. He was divorced. He had 4 kids. He was really trying to figure himself out. He went out all the time. He probably went out 4 nights a week. He was out there. He was living the bachelor life, having fun. And he did have a girlfriend for quite a while before me, but he was really sort of robust, if you will say, in his expression of finding love, having love, experiencing love. And then he met me and he took himself off the market and he decided to go inward and he decided to not do the bachelor life. And the bachelor life isn't for me. I want something that aligns with me more internally. And that is Venus in retrograde. When you have Venus in retrograde, by the way, you should watch my Venus in retrograde videos. I have about 2 or 3 of them on this channel. And I go deep into what does Venus in retrograde mean? Because it's a really, really big deal. But it's when you redefine love, when you see beauty in a new way, and when you go within yourself to find beauty, peace, love, and harmony. It's just fascinating that that is about the exact time when he met me. And he was ready to take himself out of the dating pool, create a union with someone. And it's going to be there probably for the rest of our lives. He's going to have Venus in Aries by progression in retrograde, probably for the rest of his life. Isn't that fascinating? Now, retrogrades are not bad. You know, we all think, oh, Mercury in retrograde. Yes, Mercury in retrograde is annoying. Yeah, it is annoying as hell. It just makes you want to poke your eye out with a sharp stick. When it's in the natal chart or when it's in the progress chart, it doesn't mean the same thing as it does when Mercury is transiting in retrograde and just playing with you. Right. What I want you to do is I want you to know that your moon by progression is going to travel the fastest in the progress chart. And I did for my members only, I did a whole moon video on the moon in the progress chart. So I went into deeper detail for my members. I hope you are a member. And if you aren't, please join. Please join. It helps me do more content like this. And I'm so grateful for my members. And I'm doing a lot more members only content, parties, and classes. I also prioritize answering my members' questions. I'm not perfect. I try my hardest. So when I do get on there to answer comments, I definitely go for my members first because I love you and it's a way that I can say I love you. And I genuinely want to help you learn this. So the moon is going to travel the fastest. So in 30 years time, you are going to have 30 experiences with the moon sitting at the 29th degree. That's a big deal. So the moon moves through an entire zodiac sign in 2.5 years. So every 2.5 years, you are going to experience that moon at the 29th degree. And I would love for you in your journal to write down all those moments in time when you're going to have a 29-degree 0-minute moon, and it's going to move fast. What I want you to do is know that that's an emotional ending. That's when something in your life emotionally wants to leave you. And when my progressed moon moved out of 29-degree Libra into 0-degree Scorpio, it was so painful. Some 29 degrees are harder than others. I lost, I don't want to say all my friends, but I lost most of my friends. And that was during COVID. And it was when a lot of people moved away. I think I had 16 friends move away. And I lost my friendships. I lost my friends. They became difficult to, maintain or manage. And anyways, it was really, really tough. And so I want you to know when those 29 degrees hit. Now, when the moon moved out of the 29th degree Scorpio and into 0-degree Sagittarius, I'll just tell you, it was like I got out of jail. I was in an elation. And so I want you to also notice when the 0-degree happens too, and you will feel it, my friends. You will feel it. It will be so profound. You will feel the shift and the change. And maybe it isn't right when it hits the 0-degree, but there's a lifting, there's a lightness. With an ephemeris, you can see all the months, all the years where your planets are in those degrees. Let's keep going. I'm so excited. So using this example, let's go back to February 1st, 1969. Hope you guys are looking with me. Let me know if you have your ephemeris and you're looking this up while I'm talking to you. It's so fun to learn together. Look at this. He was born with Mercury in retrograde at 6 degrees, right? This is so cool. This is what I want to teach you guys. You have to go look and see if your retrograde planets turn direct, because if your retrograde planets turn direct, there's a huge shift in your life. And when it's Mercury, it's about your learning, your talking, your communicating. Okay. So look at this. His Mercury retrograde goes direct right here on the 9th, right here on February 9th. He was born on the 1st. It has a little D on it for direct. So it's still considered, hold on, this is a great lesson. This is a lesson inside a lesson. So you can see that it goes to 0 degrees, but it's still shaded in, okay? February 1st, 1969. And it goes to a 0-degree on the 7th. That does not mean that it's not in retrograde. It's still shaded because it's slowing down, and now it's only in the minutes. It's at 59 minutes. Then it goes to 36 minutes the next day. The following days, it goes to 22 minutes, and it slows down. And at 15 minutes, 0 degrees, 15 minutes, it stops and it moves the other direction. So it's called stationary when it comes to a stop, and then it moves forward. So you have to wait to see the letter D. The letter D means direct, and it starts going direct at 15 minutes, 0 degrees, 15 minutes. Isn't it crazy? It's crazy. The retrogrades don't usually happen on the 0 degree or the 29th degree, but that is crazy. And that is happening with our Pluto. It's going back and forth right there on the 29th degree. So this is kind of rare. So in a weird way, it's a double whammy because it's a 0 degree, which is on steroids. It's a new beginning. It's a pop, bang, boom. And it's also retrograde stationing. That's what we call stopping, turning direct. So it's a double boom. So this actually happened on the 10th day of February. He was born on the 1st. So we know he was 9 years old. So we know he was in 3rd grade. Now, one thing about him that I happen to know, this is such a cute little minute of a story. Indulge me. This is so cute. I happen to know when he was 9 years old, he was like in the highlight of his life. He loved his life, absolutely was madly in love with it. He had confidence. He lived in a beautiful town called Morristown, New Jersey. It's absolutely incredibly beautiful. It's out there by Princeton University. It's smart. It's safe. It was fields of grass. And I used to live there, which is funny when I was an adult. Isn't that funny? Right after college. Anyways, one thing I know about him is just the other day, I'm not joking. This is really true. This actually happened. We were wine tasting in Woodinville, Washington. I want to do this with my students at some point when you guys come back out here. And I don't know how we'll do it. It's like people who want to stay longer. Let's go wine tasting in Woodinville because it's a miniature Napa Valley. And there's like over 200 grape varietals. And there's like almost up to 300 wineries now. And the red wine out here in Washington State is phenomenal. It's so phenomenal that I don't care where you live. I have a feeling if you go to a very nice restaurant, you will find a Washington red wine on your menu. And if you do, I recommend you buy it, because if you're sitting there in New Zealand or you're in South Africa right now and you see a Washington red wine on your menu, that's a damn good wine. So we're known for our red wines, but we do whites really well too, but we're not Napa and Sonoma. Anyways, we went to this winery and it's one of his favorite wineries. And it's called Mark Ryan. And he loves it because they have this rooftop renovated winery and bar. And we sat down next to this mother and daughter, and the mother is 80 something years old and the daughter is like my age. We sat down and we just made friends because that's what we do. That's what we do. We asked them, oh, are you guys from here? And the mom said, no, I'm visiting. And he said, where are you from? And he said, oh, just a small town in New Jersey. He goes, really? I'm from New Jersey. Where? Oh, Morristown, New Jersey. Morristown, New Jersey. Oh my gosh, that's where I grew up until I was 12 years old. She was like, no way. And I said, and I used to live at One Franklin Place in the castle. I rented out a tiny room up in the attic, but fun story. We made besties with this 80 something year old grandma who's from Morristown, New Jersey, who lived down the street from where his parents lived in Morristown. And he talked about his life in third grade. And it turns out that the daughter, who's about my age, went to the same elementary school as him. And it's still there and it's still wonderful. And he talked about how he played baseball and tennis and how beautiful his home was. And he asked if the Smiths were still down the street. And oh, Mr. Smith was so nice. And I got to hear he doesn't have any real family alive. Like his whole entire adopted family many of them are alive, but I don't get to hear about his childhood hardly ever. They live all far away. This just happened. So I haven't even looked at his chart by progression when he was 9 years old. I haven't done that assignment, people. I mean, there's only so much obsession you can do, right? As an astrologer, there is only so much you can be obsessed about. Like, ooh, I'm going to go look and see what my husband's ninth year was like. Anyways, it's so rewarding to do. It is so freaking fun. And I got to hear how colorful and beautiful his story was as a boy before 12. At 12 years old, sadly, his mom moved to Arizona to be near her brother and live next door to her brother. And she moved to a town called Apache Junction. And it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's pretty tough. It's pretty rough. It's the desert. It's in the middle of nowhere. And so bye-bye green Princeton farmland and hello in the middle of nowhere desert in the 70s. I mean, a really tough place to live, to be honest. And so his life had another dramatic turn, and that would be cool to look for progressions too. But what's interesting is that Mercury got out of retrograde in his ninth year, 10 years after he was born. He was in the heyday of his world, and he became so confident and so expressive. He became phenomenal at baseball. He loved baseball. He loved his sports. He loved his friends. He loved his friendships. He loved going into the city and watching baseball games with his dad. He loved how things were working for him. It's really cool. So when those retrograde planets, especially Mercury in retrograde, I think that's a really big one. When they go direct, something about your life pattern, the way you talk, if it's Mercury, the way you talk, the way you think, the way you express, the way you perceive life completely changes. It never will go retrograde again by progression, right? Isn't that cool? Look and see if your Mercury will go retrograde in your lifetime. Now, going retrograde doesn't mean it's a problem. It just means there's a really big shift in the way that you perceive or think or talk or learn, or your hobbies shift or change. So when I looked mine up, it's in about my 77th, 78th year that my Mercury will go into retrograde. So I might be losing my mind, or I might have a shift in what I want to talk about, what I want to think about. I might have a shift in perception, right? I might go inward. I might get quieter. I might not want to stand on a stage, or right? Life might get more intimate. So I want you to go look at your retrograde planets. And what's so cool about the ephemeris is you can look at them across the board. So look at when planets are retrograde in your natal chart, right? On the day that you're born. That's your natal chart. The day that you're born in the ephemeris is your natal chart. And then go look and see when those retrograde planets go direct and what happened, and mark them down on your calendar in your journal so you can think about it, your past, your present, and your future. And then look at the planets that when you were born, they were retrograde, when, if they even do go direct. Then what I want you to do is I want you to think about in your ephemeris when your planets, especially if they're at late degrees, and the moon is going to do this every 2.5 years, no matter what. And the sun is going to do this every 30 years, 28, 29, or 30 years. But I want you to look at Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, and I want you to see if they change signs. Now, the outer planets, it's very unlikely that they're ever even going to change signs because they move so slowly by progression. I mean, it's just so rare. But if you're born at the very late degrees and they don't go retrograde, they will change. And so let me just talk to you about that really quickly. If you have Venus changing signs, well, your whole approach to love and your whole approach to what you value and what your own worth is in this lifetime will shift and change. Your concept of beauty will change, and your beauty might actually change. You might get more beautiful, or you might get even detached from conventional beauty. You also may have a change in income when that sign changes by progression, if it does. But I want you to go and look and see if your Venus changes, okay? Remember, if it's going to change signs, it is going to sit at the 29th degree. The 29th degree is a challenge degree. It's a perilous degree. It's when you could like lose everything before you gain everything. It could be a time when you lose some things to gain some things. You might lose a job to get a better job, right? I had to lose a corporate job to become an entrepreneur, to then lose everything and live with $3 in my cents as a beginning astrologer in order to sort of build my platform, which has now become really of great value to me in my life and hopefully yours. But I had to lose everything to build it and to grow it. That's Venus. How has Venus changed in your life by progression? When Venus changes signs by progression, it's way bigger than any Venus transit will ever be. Way bigger. It's way bigger than Venus sitting on your ascendant or Venus moving through your seventh house. Those are huge. This is huger. I think my mama would tell me, my English PhD mother would tell me, huger is not a word. It's a BFD, people. That's all I'm trying to say. Now, now listen to me. I have this person in my life whose Mars sat there at the 29th degree Cancer, dilly-dallying with it for his whole life, like back and forth. 29 degree Cancer, 28, 27, 26, 25, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 29, 29, 29, 29, 27, 28, and it was just like, oh my God, what's going on? His mother died of breast cancer. His sister got diagnosed with breast cancer and had a double mastectomy. His sister-in-law got diagnosed breast cancer. Sister-in-law got a double mastectomy, almost died. His daughter got diagnosed with breast cancer. I think they must have the BRCA gene. I don't know. And you're not even going to believe this. At 60 years old, he got diagnosed with breast cancer. Yeah. Now, that does not mean every single person who has 29 degrees Cancer, by the way, he had it in the eighth house. Every single person who has 29 degrees of Cancer in their chart in the eighth house is going to experience this. He has a lifetime. I mean, he has a karmic contract with this particular disease, which the moon is female parts. It's the breasts and the womb, and it's in the eighth house and the way it's situated in its Mars and his chart. So he had to overcome his own breast cancer, and he did. He survived it. And his mama passed away, but his two sisters, sister-in-law and sister, survived it, and his daughter survived it. Anyways, that's his karmic story. That's not everybody's karmic story. But I always wondered, like, wow, what is this? And so I knew him during this time, but I don't know him any longer since he's had the breast cancer himself. However, I do know that he survived it. So I just want to tell you that that's how his soul decided to work those lessons of death and dying and fighting for your life and, the warrior spirit around breast cancer. And now he runs marathons, wearing the Susan B. Komen Foundation sponsorship. And that's his give back. So, good for him. Go look and see those signs change. No, you want to know what's really crazy about that particular person's chart? By progression, he never will have a 0 degree Leo Mars. Never. It always goes to 29 and then goes back. It never goes to the 0. It never jumps the fence and, he gets to be the Leo. Nope, never. And he's not born for that. And if you met him, you'd see it because there's a great stoicism and strength and toughness about him. There's like an invulnerability about him, like a Cancer. And Leo's like, just let it all out. That 29th degree and also the changing of the signs is really, really, really going to show you mega major themes in your life. And the fact that his 29th degree never got to that 0 degree Leo, you can see it. So I want you to start using this tool to see how your contract is shaped. And don't always look at it in the negative or in the nasty or in the bad story. There's good stories too. You are in a transformational, evolutionary contract that your soul has incarnated to learn these deep messages. And so I don't want you to see just negativity just because I gave you that negative story. There is something quite beautiful and there is something quite bright about your life too. But I want you to be able to sort of start to see the story. And if you're confused, come be a member and get a ticket to come to my Playful Progressions party, which is going to be July 21st. And you can go to Shop Soul Navigation and go get a ticket. And it's only $4.99 for super supporters. And it's free if you are a superstar super supporter. And I'm just going to read charts and I'm going to teach you to see the stories and the themes using just progressions. And we are going to have a rockin' good time. We are going to have so much fun. When by progression, your planet changes signs to the 0 degrees, you have a whole new lease on life, and then see how long it lasts, probably for the rest of your life. And there's something that fundamentally shifts. So with Mars, it's about how you want to fight for your life. It's what you want to stand up and fight for. It's how you want to assert yourself. It is your sexual expression. It is the warrior within you. It is a change in how you are driven in this world, like the madness and the genius. This is definitely the madness part, and what you're going to do with your energy. How are you going to move your body? How are you going to animate? This is your life force. So this is the energetic drive inside of you. So do you have something in your life that forces you to use your energy differently? It will be interesting to take a look at. If, for example, you got into a debilitating accident, where was your Mars by progression inside the story? And then eventually we look at the aspects of that progressed Mars to those other planets. So right now we're just going easy. I'm just easing you into it. I don't want to go too fast, too hard, too strong. I don't want to pull my whole Mars out on you. I want to be able to pace you into being able to truly and fully understand progressions. These videos that I'm doing are truly advanced. So if you're not following along, please don't feel bad about yourself, but go start at the beginning of this series, because we're a couple videos deep into it now, and start there and really get out your chart and get out your ephemeris and really look up the days of your lives. The days of your lives literally are the years of your lives. I mean, we are full on soap opera here. And go look and try to follow along with what I'm saying. And if you have questions, bring them to my Playful Progressions party on July 21st. It's going to be on Zoom. So you have to get a ticket so I can send you a Zoom link. And I think I can only have 200 people there. So I think it's going to be really small and intimate. So Mars, when it changes signs, or when it sits at the 29th degree or the 0 degree, it really changes its expression. And if you're wondering, what is Mars all about? I have a Mars video, and I want you to go watch the Mars video that I have. I have Mars through all the signs, and then go watch what your Mars sign is, and then listen what your Mars sign is by progression, and see if you can feel it. Now, sometimes planets that change signs, or they go from that 29th degree to the 0 degree, that's the changing of the signs. It takes a minute for the new energy to find you. Like if you're moving from Leo into Virgo, that's a pretty big shift. You're going from like wild self-expression into self-mastery, and it might take a couple years for it to really seep in. It's not a quick change. It's a slow change. If you've got Jupiter changing signs, which is very, very rare. So somehow truth changed. The truth of your life, or the truth of the belief system inside your family, flipped or switched. So when that Jupiter changes, your belief system changes. So can you guys speak to this? Can you speak to this? Has this happened to you? Go check in the ephemeris if you are born with a really late Jupiter, and see what year that Jupiter flipped. When did it hit the 29th degree? Were you in crisis around the 29th degree? And then were you born again in a way, literally or metaphorically, were you born again when it hit the 0 degree? That is a really big statement. And Jupiter is also your best self, your highest self. It's your optimism. It's your lucky charm, but it is your belief system. It is the motivation of Mars. This is how I talk about Mars. Mars is what makes you put your feet on the ground in the morning and walk out to the kitchen and get your morning coffee and start your day, and has you like brush your teeth and put your clothes on and walk out the front door. Jupiter is the motivation and the inspiration and why you're brushing your teeth. Why are you brushing your teeth? You are inspired to brush your teeth because you have a belief system, or Venus, a value system or a belief system around brushing your teeth and getting yourself up and out the door and into your day. There's some sort of motivation or inspiration. That is Jupiter. By the way, if you want to learn about Jupiter, and if you want to learn about death, and if you want to learn about the truth, the deeper side of the moon, I'm teaching all of that in Barcelona in October, and I just cannot wait. And you can get your Barcelona tickets. I still have some left. You can get your Barcelona tickets if you want, and come learn with me. We play at night, we learn in the day, and we are going to have It will be a life-changing transformational workshop and retreat. I cannot wait. Those are the 3 subject matters that I'm going to teach about. And you can go find all the information on Meredith's workshops and retreats at soulnavigation.com. Go check it out. Go check it out. Anyways, Jupiter, when that shifts in your progress chart, it's massive, because if you don't have your truth, if you don't have your higher self, if you don't have your optimism, if you don't have what you believe in intact, or if it's going to change, I think it's like the domino effect that affects every single thing in your life. Now, when Saturn, and this is also going direct to retrograde too. I didn't say that. So if it changes signs, if it sits at the 29th degree, so let's say you're born with a 28 degree and it swings onto the 29th degree, now it's in crisis, and then it gets to the 0 degree. Okay, now it's free. And also if it goes direct or retrograde, there is a whole shift inside of your belief system. And the same with Mars. If it goes direct or retrograde, there's a shift in the way you use your energy. And then we also talked about that for Venus. But with Saturn, a Saturn in retrograde is oftentimes a missing father figure. So it's very interesting to see if your Saturn goes direct, that's like there's a new authority, or you've become your own wise authority or your own counsel, or there is maybe a new person in your life that you can really look up to in a father figure way. And that could be a grandfather, that could be an uncle, that could be a first boss, that could be a mentor, a teacher in some way. That could be you joining the military. That could be you stepping into your own power or authority. That could be when you became an authority on a subject and no longer need that father figure. It might be when you heal father figure wounds, father wounds. And when it changes signs, well, the expression of authority and wisdom change. You might find that, oh, I was getting all my wisdom over here through social media. Now I'm getting wisdom by retreating within and maybe writing a novel. So it completely shifts. So I did externalize how I was doing my life, building my legacy, doing my great work. And now I internalize it. So there's a shift around doing your great work and what your great work and your calling even looks like. And when it changes, Saturn moves into 29 degrees, there is crisis around Saturn issues. And 0 degrees, there's a real liberation inside. Maybe you have a new calling, or maybe you've stepped into a higher calling around what your greatest work will be, right? Like Vincent van Gogh, he was just painting, and then he realized that he was also a brilliant letter writer. His modality switched a little bit, and his letters are incredibly deep and very, very telling. And we're so lucky that we have his letters to accompany his internal thought process that we can find inside his great artwork. So that's fascinating, his letters to his brother Theo. When you have this happen in Uranus, it's very unusual to have it change signs or change direct to retrograde. I mean, because it moves so slowly. So if anybody has this, it's a pretty big deal, because there is a little bit of a revolt inside of you. Like, I no longer want to do anything the same way. Massive change. Your whole life might change upside down and inside out. There is massive, massive change. The change wants to improve your life, wants to advance your life, wants to assist your life, and wants you to operate at a higher octave. Doesn't always feel that way. This could come in through an accident. This could come in through a very shocking or surprising way. This could come in through something being shockingly removed from your life, taken away from you. And so now you have this gaping hole in your heart. Well, what are you going to do with it? I'm thinking about people who have unbearable circumstances that have shocked them into a whole new way of living, right? We can think of 1,000 examples of that, which I don't want to even put out there. I don't want to manifest in any way, shape, or form for anybody, but this usually doesn't happen subtly. So when and if Uranus changes signs, it means you literally were in the last breath of Uranus being in a certain energy. And also you're here to change the whole generation, or you're here to advance your generation. You are an advanced thinker that may create a movement or be a part of a great cause that moves the generation into a whole new direction. You might literally be on the forefront. So I have a friend who changed their gender from female to male, and he advocates and teaches awareness around the process and how the do's and the don'ts for people who once knew them, and how to think about it and think about them and think about the process, and how to interact with people who have gone through this gender transformation, and how you still remember them in their old self, but they have completely transformed. And now how do their families embrace them? And there is a gap that needs to be taught, and it's not necessarily instinctual tool for other people. And so they are doing that. That is kind of an extreme example, or I should say that is kind of an example of how extreme or shocking, right, this kind of Uranian change can feel. It can literally feel like you are a maverick on a whole new subject the world may or may not be ready for, or that you feel you need to help advance the thinking around the way that the general population or humanity used to think about something. So it can be work that is surprising, that is shocking, that is thrilling, that is so unique that there's resistance in it too. When you have this Uranus change by sign or go to the 29th degree or the 0 degree. And when it hits the 0 degree, there's real liberation in it. But when it's at the 29th degree, you might feel like you're really pounding your head against the wall. When it's Neptune, when Neptune changes signs, I mean, it's so rare by progression for it to change signs. But if it changes signs or changes directions, the dream is different now. The whole dream of your life, your whole experience to God and spirituality, it's like your divine contract has either become aware to you or it's shifted or changed. So maybe you went from a more fundamental conservative contract with God through religion. And now I think of Cat Stevens, who was, I don't know, he was a hippie and had no religion. And then I think he became a Muslim and went and lived in a cave. So I'd love to see his progress chart, like when that happened. And then he changed his name. He changed his name to a Muslim name, I believe. I'm not positive I even have the story right, but it's something like this. And his whole divine contract changed. And now I think it's changed again, but I don't know what it's changed to. So I'm just saying, it's like when you see people completely alter their relationship to God and the cosmic energy and the world, and their dream has changed, the dream of themselves, or they go from reality into fantasy, or they lose themselves completely. And you see them at your 40th, reunion, and you're like, who are you? What happened? You completely are unrecognizable. That's very Neptunian. Like, how did the dream change? The dream state. It's like, Gonzo, like, are you there? Are you there? So it also can be when you really step into divine power. You can even step into psychic power, psychic awareness. You can also communicate with those on the other side. You might step into a mediumship practice. Yeah, it's really interesting. And when this happens with Pluto, again, so rare. These are so rare. So if you have these, please leave comments. Please talk about it. Like, what happened when you had this? And also, again, it might not become aware. You might not be aware of what the change actually is for a few years, because these planets move so slowly. And by progression, they just usually never even change 1 degree, maybe 1 degree, but not much. They don't change. And so you have to really be on that last breath, 2948, 2950, like that. And it will probably retrograde back to the 29th degree. So these outer planets, if they do go forward and change signs, watch, it won't be there for very long. It's going to go back. And you want to know that dance and that pattern. And if you're really a 290, 290, 290 on any of these outer planets, oh my God, you are a transformer. You are literally living in 2 worlds. You're the rainbow bridge, my friend. Are there any of you out there? There's got to be. There's got to be. By the way, I'm almost at 100,000. I am so close to 100,000 subscribers. And I told myself, after I get 100,000 subscribers, I'm going to quit asking for you to subscribe. That's just my goal. I don't need it bigger than that. I don't need 1 million. I don't need 500,000, but I'm almost there. So help me out. I think I only need like 3,500 more people to subscribe. So please subscribe if you're still listening. I'd be so grateful. This is very, very rare. So if one of my 96,000 subscribers are watching, if you have this, you're a really remarkable, special person with an incredibly karmic contract in this lifetime. And you're actually trying to be 2 things in this lifetime. So let's say you are sitting with a planet between the 29th degree of Capricorn and Aquarius. It's a little bit of an outer planet. Let's say it's Saturn. That is literally the rainbow bridge. That is like somebody who is trying to take traditional foundations and innovate them for the future. So like, you're the person who wants to take the airplane and turn it into a spaceship so we can go visit aliens on other planets. Yeah, it's no small thing. And with Pluto, you're doing this with life and death. You're doing this with the psychology pieces in life. And there's great transformation psychologically, and also through life and death, through the transformation, through understanding the depth of life and death and the meaning of life and death. And you might be a great founder or pioneer on those subjects, on the subjects of the occult, on the subject of, is there a hell? What is hell? What is the soul? What are the esoteric questions and answers of life and death? And also dancing with death and learning how to dance with the breath of life and the breath of death. It's like you're standing at the portal. This is what I call my beautiful friend who delivers babies for a living. I think she's a sentry at the portal, and she deals with birthing babies. But what nobody talks about is she also deals with those that don't make it. And that is a very critical place. So if you have Pluto going retrograde or direct in your progress chart, or changing signs 29th degree to 0 degree, it is a massively big deal. And you are a great healer and a great transformer between two worlds. The two worlds are the two signs in which it's changing. So if you have a Virgo Pluto and it's changing into Libra by progression, and it does change into Libra, if it just hovers, like my friend who I was talking about with Mars, it just hovers at the 29th degree and goes back to 26 degrees and up to 29, and it never changes. Okay, well, that's a different story. This story, I'm talking about the change of faces, the changing faces of these planets, not a small thing. So when your progressed planets change sign or change direction, it's massive. I hope you guys like this video. Thank you so much for your support. If you want more information on your progressed chart, there's a few things you can do. You can buy my Advanced Astro Gold Package, which hopefully you guys all have, or you could get a reading with Connie Jo. You could get one with me too, but I'm booked until September. However, I am now offering recorded readings for 30 minutes. You could buy a recorded reading. I'll do it for you. Send me a bullet pointed outline of a few things that you want me to talk about in your recorded reading. I've already done a few of them. They're super fun. I can do them late at night in my PJs, and I will do a recording for you just like this, all about your chart, and I'll share my screen. Super fun. It's really easy for me to do. It's fun, and it's a way that I can reach more people. Anyways, I love talking to you about your progress chart. I'm going to do some more members only videos. I'm going to talk about compatibility in the progress chart. That's going to be really, really cool. I'm going to talk about compatibility in the progress chart for my members only. So hopefully you are a member and you'll go check out those videos too. They're coming. They're coming. I'm going on a big giant vacation. So I hope to have all these videos done before I go on vacation with my daughter. We are going to have just a trip of a lifetime in Europe together. I cannot wait. That's just around the corner. And I hope you guys will also check out Dawn's new moon necklaces. She still has a few left, and I absolutely love manifesting on the new moon and the full moon with her moonstone necklaces. It's Venus holding the full moon. They're also in my shop at Shop Soul Navigation. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for being here. From my house here in Seattle to wherever you are at in the whole wide world, I wish you the very, very best. Take good care. Bye for now.